And just Victoria, let me know when we do go live.
I can't do live. I think you need to.
Oh. Okay. All right, we're recording. Betsy, I see your settings menu currently. Were you able to launch your slides? And if you could turn your camera on, that would be awesome as well, when you're ready. Betsy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. My video is on in the front. I'm not sure why it's not working. I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
Okay, well, we can move ahead without video if
Yeah,
like.
yeah, let's go ahead for a minute. I'm not sure. I keep touching it and it just says it's on and it's not working. So sorry, so frustrating. We were supposed to have this all done back in March. We should be really good with Google Zoom and everything else by now with the.
Would you like to share your slides?
I tried. It's not showing. It's not allowing me to.
Okay. Do you want to shoot?
Can you share yours?
Oh yeah, that's right. I do have a copy. Yep. Hang on just a second. Let me. I see a chair.
I know. I've changed it to the front camera. And every time I change it to the front camera, it shuts off. I don't know what to do about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, I'll turn it around. I just don't know. I just won't be able to see my screen. That's like the downside. I don't really. Oh, heavens to Betsy. Of
Thanks,
course.
guys, for bearing with us. You just never know what you're going to encounter with technology.
All right. Tell me when you can see me.
All right. Hang on a second. I'm working on getting your slides up here too. Just a sec. Live on Facebook.
Oh my goodness. This
Buddy.
is a little stressful.
Oh, I don't want that. Oh, hang on a second. There we go. Can you see those slides?
No, I have to turn my, for some reason it won't connect to my front camera. I've done everything in my settings. It works for every other application. Of course, it's just not working right now.
All right, no worries. The audience, can you see these slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Betsy, can you see the slides?
No, I'm going to pull it up on a different computer.
Well, if you can't see what's going on Zoom, you won't see which slide I'm on. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Oh, okay. I just want to be sure you can see the slides I'm projecting. That way you know where we're at.
Right.
And worst case scenario, you can always use your phone. So while we're troubleshooting our technology, I'm going to make a couple announcements. So we have tonight, we have Betsy McDavid, who is going to be presenting on quality improvement and insurance. And I'll let Betsy introduce herself in more detail. Next month, we do have a special guest, Chrissy Cool. Some of you may know her. She's our state coordinator for community paramedicine, and she has a much more official title than that. But she'll be presenting something pretty innovative. It's not going to be dry. It's also going to be a lot like Betsy's presentation, where she's going to take you into CP programs, but she's going to do it in a really fun and innovative way to kind of get you thinking about programs and maybe a way that you haven't thought when it comes to CP and mobile integrated health. So that's next month in November. And then we're going to wrap up the year in December with our OB Emergencies Part 2. And I know you guys love that presentation, so they're coming back in December. And then we're going to hop into a new year. So look for that schedule. That's going to be coming out pretty soon here. We have some really cool stuff going on next year. And the last thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow morning, we do have Paige, Wolfberg, and Worth back for EMS Sustainability. That's an all-day workshop. They're going to take us through revenue cycle management, some leadership tips and tactics, and a couple other things that are going to be really amazing. I'm definitely going to be on listening to them intently as they teach us about sustainability, specifically centered around rural EMS. But as you know, all of EMS really has the same concepts when it comes to sustainability with few exceptions. So it could be beneficial. If you want to register for that, that is going to be open until midnight tonight. If you want me to send you the link, just shoot me an email and I can do that and get you into the course. It's $20 per person cost, and there's no other cost associated with it outside of that. So those are my announcements. Are you guys ready to get started? Betsy, how are you doing over there?
I'm struggling, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm getting another computer going right now, but we can go ahead and start with some of the questions.
Okay, all right. Well, my heart goes out to Betsy. She's going to be multitasking while doing this. And let me tell you folks, she's got some really great things to say. And Betsy's a great mentor. Betsy, while you're trying to multitask over there, I wish I could be over there to help you personally. I just want to know, like, can you kind of introduce yourself a little bit more to the audience? Because I didn't really do it justice, and just tell them a little bit about, what you do and your history and experience.
Absolutely. Most people start off with what kind of dinosaur they are in EMS, and it's not necessarily a badge of honor for me, but we all had a passion and a reason why we got into EMS in the first place. Mine might be a little bit different than most. I was in a really bad car accident right around my formative years when I was 17, 18 years old, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life. And what a noble profession. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I got a copy of the EMS report of the paramedics that took care of me. And I was just in awe. That service over self mentality, I realized that I would never get rich in this life with being an EMS, and that there would be a lot of sacrifice involved. But I couldn't think of anything more worthy to ever dedicate my life to. And I think that there are a lot of people who feel the same way, and that's why we're all here tonight. The fact that it's after 6 o'clock at night, and there are people who have joined to get CEs and listen to me blab is amazing. I give props to everybody who is logged on right now, because you're truly a lifelong learner and you're very dedicated if you're listening right now. I live in Brooklyn. This is where I was born and raised. I work for Jackson Community Ambulance, Emergent Health Partners. I have 4 different counties right now. And the views, Andrea, if you could skip through to the disclaimer, I just would like to show the disclaimer right now. So my boss is watching, so he knows. Very mouse.
Got the disclaimer up for you.
Say that again?
Got the disclaimer up for you.
Awesome, thank you. I'm not representing Emergent Health Partners or Jackson Community Ambulance right now. The views that I will express today and tonight are my own. This is an independent function of Emergent Health Partners. I'm not looking at recruiting, but I'm sure that the fact that you're online right now, I would love for you to come work for me or think about it. All of my ideas that I've had, EHP has been very supportive of. However, what I'm talking about tonight, this has not been endorsed nor necessarily approved. So that's really all you need to know about my disclaimer.
Cool, awesome, okay. So tell us a little bit about how you became a QI supervisor. How did that happen?
Through pain and suffering. I'm gonna throw Chrissy Cool under the bus right now. I didn't know for a long time whether to blame her or thank her for the opportunity I, she was my mentor. She and along with Emily Berquist, who both work for the state now, their encouragement, they pushed me to give more. And I think I was like a lot of providers. I kind of coasted for a while. I didn't really give back. I think there are a lot of providers that feel like they give a lot to the profession already. And sometimes you feel like it just takes too much. And I wasn't ready to take the next step of, joining the professional organizations and groups and contribute in any other way other than working on the truck and taking care of people, which is what I enjoyed. And I really, really, really wanted to show a GIF that I had made that shows this little gopher going up and down this really, really tall wall, jumping up and down, and not being able to just this fat gopher just trying to jump up and down and not being successful. And that was me for a very long time. There are a lot of people who quit leadership and quit trying to promote to their profession after being turned down once or twice. And I urge you to not let that stop you, because if you have that passion that you're pursuing it in the first place, you have something to give, you have something to contribute, and EMS desperately needs you. I think I had 4 interviews and I was turned down every time. So it was kind of a joke to me, but obviously nobody likes that kind of rejection. That's really challenging. But at one point, I took the feedback of the rejection to raise my level of professionalism. And I raised the bar on myself and challenged myself to do more, learn more, and contribute. That's when the passion for it really grew. And that's why somehow they chose me to do this job.
Well, very cool. Yeah, and I would echo that sentiment. I think persistence is always noticed. So, if you can be persistent and also recognizing when you're working for people that are supportive and people that are not, maybe you're in the wrong fishbowl per se. So that's great advice. So forgive me, I'm going to skip around because I'm getting antsy about like asking some of these at the end.
No problem.
So I'm just going to kind of bop around a little bit here, but how do you motivate people to change?
Well, that's tough because we're forged through crisis. And I think that probably is one of my slides.
Yep.
There is nothing, you are never going to get an EMS provider to do something that they don't want to do. We've made, after being in EMS for years, you're an alpha type, and you certainly don't do anything that you don't believe in or don't have faith in or don't trust or don't feel like there's value or don't know the why. I know that there are a lot of people who are very interested in Simon Sinek. He has this famous TED Talk. Why? Well, the why is why we're all here. And the why is, I think, the only thing that can engage and motivate someone to change is connecting and engaging with why you got here in the first place, and connecting and engaging with what you've done in your career thus far.
Okay, so anyway, we're not going to worry about the override
Okay.
right now. Just remember that this
Just be sure you're on mute if you're on the phone line.
Andrea, Betsy got muted.
truck, and it actually shows you if the lights are going out, and move like Cap said.
I don't have the ability to unmute her. It says I have to ask.
But there she goes.
Hi.
Very odd. I'm the host and I can't unmute or mute people. Interesting. Okay. Well,
Oh, I'm going to continue without video for a while. I see you sharing. Is that the front page that you're sharing there of my presentation?
nope. I don't know how that happened either, honestly. I don't even, There's some really peculiar things going on right now. Here we
There
go.
certainly are.
Yep. All right, we're rolling with it. So let's do the next question. What's the hardest lesson you've learned as a quality improvement supervisor?
Honestly, that would be recognizing my own bias and falling into the trap of following what the company was doing
Okay.
on its own. And that sounds terrible, but let me know when you can see me. This is ridiculous. But this is what paramedics do.
I can't see you yet. So tell us more about bias, though. You know, there's been a lot of talk about cognitive bias, and I feel like this is a fancy term that people kind of throw around. But, you know, how would you define being biased, and how did that impact your work when it came to quality improvement?
Honestly, not knowing what my feelings were and not knowing and going with my own limited perception of what I had seen and what I had been through, and not recognizing that sometimes I have this unique ability that a lot of agencies don't have, that we have this bilateral feedback with the hospital, and I have that access to Epic. So it's very easy for me to get feedback on reports. And a big bias that I mentioned later on is hindsight bias. And when you know the outcome, well, it's pretty simple to think that you can put the dots together because you know what the outcome is. I think that is, on being the quality improvement, quality assurance side, that is probably the hardest aspect, would be the hindsight bias, realizing that you have to put yourself in the provider's shoes at the time with what they were given and all the things that they were juggling, and not losing that empathy and that connection to the street. I think that providers feel their biggest bias tends to be the fundamental attribution error. And I mean, it can happen to supervisors or anybody else. And that would be, I think the best way to explain it is when you're speeding on your way to work because there's a bunch of call-offs and there are cars shut down and you're trying to help out and you are breaking the speed limit and you're like, I'm in a uniform. I hope that they don't pull me over. I have a good reason and I'm speeding. However, when you are driving down the same road and somebody else passes you because they're going faster than you are, even though that you're breaking the speed limit, and you're angry with them and you're frustrated with them, that's like the key essence of fundamental attribution error. They're a jerk. There's something wrong with them. What kind of maniac does this? I'm already breaking the speed limit. We're going plenty fast enough. They don't need to go faster than I'm going. And that's the best way to explain it. And I think we've all been witness to it too as providers. When you show up to let's say a unit or something else to take care of someone, or it could be a house or anywhere else, and suddenly the caretaker feels vulnerable and comes up with a bias, an excuse on why they don't know anything about the patient, or that they've been busy and overloaded with this or overloaded with that, or this isn't their unit, or whatever it is, being that kind of overwhelmed. You can't fix something that you don't know exists. And I think that is what we are really, really good at in EMS, is putting up blinders and letting people know that it's safe to take down those barriers and that armor. I think is the most important thing that I can do as a supervisor. is understanding that we all have armor. We all put it on when we feel threatened or feel like we have to justify our behavior when we were doing the best that we could with what we were given at the time. And you have to understand that. Not understanding that and not being able to be empathetic and see somebody else's perspective, I think, causes huge rifts. And the generation of EMS that many of us, especially if you've been in this longer than 10 years, 15 years, was a sink or swim mentality. God knows that's what I grew up with. And it's not the right, it didn't do anybody favors. It doesn't serve anybody well. It's no wonder that we have trouble keeping the longevity and keeping people in this career for 20, 30 years. You get really good at numbing things. If you, at the very back of my presentation, you'll see my recommended reading list, and the top 4 books are definitely eye-opening, especially to somebody who has spent a lifetime career of numbing things out. Are you able to see me yet?
No, I cannot
No.
see you, but you're doing great,
Oh my-
and I can hear you just fine.
Oh my goodness.
So Daring Greatly and Dare to Lead, both really great books. The 2 at the top I have not checked out. I'll have to check those out for sure. So yeah, there's some good ones on here. Yeah. So good reading list. So you kind of touched on this, but you know, the question, what's the most important thing you do as a supervisor? You know, you'd mentioned vulnerability and armor. Is this something that you feel is important as a supervisor?
Absolutely. I think it's the most important thing that I can do is show my human side. I think that there are probably leadership that cringes when you do that sometimes, because you might not necessarily look professional, but we're not all professional 100% of the time. We're people. And if you can't show your humanness and your vulnerability, then you're not going to be empathetic, and you're not going to be able to see. We're going through a lot of slides. You're not going to be able to see or the other person's perspective. And that's part of what makes you can make a great provider, is when you can see the other person's perspective and understand and empathize what they're going through. I think that's one of the strongest things that we can do. I think the strongest thing that I do as a quality supervisor, or that anybody can do, it doesn't matter, you know, if we sat here and talked all night about NEMSIS, key performance indicators, or none of those things. There are a lot of resources that I shared. None of those things matter if you don't get this part right. And this part is taking care of your people and letting them know that you have their back and that you are supportive of them and you want them to be successful. I think that is the most important thing that I do for my agency, is that my coworkers can depend on me and know that I'm not looking to hang up or write up anybody. I want them to be successful, and if they're ever in trouble, they can come to me and we will work through it. I don't think that following any other metrics or doing any other, you can't be successful with anything else in quality improvement or quality assurance if you haven't taken the time to build the relationship. Nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to respect you. Nobody's going to listen to you. And this might not be what anybody was expecting tonight from this presentation, but it's key and it's fundamental. It's a hard stop. It's a do not pass go. And I would be surprised if anybody could argue against that.
Can you give us an example of a quality assurance or improvement project that you would recommend or something you've been working on?
I think quality assurance is very different from quality improvement. I think that there are a lot of agencies that, first of all, it doesn't matter how big or how small your agency is. I guarantee that there's not a lot of funding for quality improvement, quality assurance, education. You're going to have to learn it on your own. You're going to have to search it out and learn what needs to be done on your own. You can't make that your excuse that, well, we're not spending money on education, or they're never going to send me to that. When has that ever stopped a paramedic when they're told no, or when they think that something won't work? They find a way to make it happen. We all know this. This is what paramedics do best. They make it work. That is true with quality improvement and quality assurance. If you are doing quality improvement, is proactive, which is something that you don't usually see, and I think that that's usually a financial aspect. Because there's only so much money to go around, and you can't go without quality assurance. That's like focusing on, did we meet the standards? Did we do what we were supposed to do? Have we caused any harm? That's quality assurance. Quality improvement is proactive. It could be retrospective, but it's proactive, and I'd say it's more global. Ideally, it's led by staff and management, where you come together and you say, hey, we could do better on this. What would make a difference to you as a provider? What's important to you as a provider? Not having that collaboration, that ownership is where I think any agency will fall short. If you don't have co-ownership with your employees and they don't feel like they are a part of it, it's very difficult to get that buy-in. I think that recently we have just started sharing some, I would say, statistics that are up to discretionary effort. How often you document vital signs, and how often, do you document a blood sugar on every altered LOC? Some basic things like that, things that are completely within the person's discretion to document. It's not about shaming, but it's about a badge of honor and a badge of pride. Are you at the top of the list for that? I think that it sounds like I didn't mean to lure anybody here with the word tactics, but I couldn't lure you here with the feels. So the truth is, if you're going to leverage anything that's free, it's pride of care, pride of what you do, and having your coworkers esteem. The best compliment you will ever get in EMS, and I would argue this to anyone, the very best compliment you would ever get is when your coworker that you respect and admire tells you, I want you to be the paramedic who shows up and takes care of my child, my family. And leverage is not a nice word. It feels like you're putting somebody's arm behind their back and pushing them to do something, but they will push themselves to do this because they want that respect. They work hard at what they do, and they certainly don't want to be shown up by somebody who works the shift before them. So sharing that information, it's not about humiliating anybody. It's not about shame. That's the last thing that you should ever do in any quality improvement or quality assurance. That's the very last thing. It should never has no part of QI or QA. But what you should do is acknowledge that that is an important thing to employees. It's a very important thing to employees, and they should get kudos and respect for that and acknowledgement. I can't say that enough. Nobody needs, we have chosen a life of service over self. And I'm not saying that everybody should get a trophy for everything that they do, every time they document 2 sets of blood pressures or two sets of vital signs, but getting them engaged and interested in improving themselves and recognizing where they're falling short or why they're falling short, it's incredibly rewarding.
And wouldn't you agree that oftentimes we tell people the how and the what, and we forget the why? And when
Absolutely.
that why is missing,
I honestly
want to do those things.
I agree 1000%, Andrea. We're very good at telling staff that we need to do this, and that. Well, it's a little late if you're frustrated that they're not doing this, or that. Let's say you feel like they're going lights and sirens too much. They don't understand the culture shift around lights and sirens and the lack of actual value that lights and sirens has and the danger that it poses. If you don't show them firsthand and then you start hitting them with, why'd you go lights and sirens with this? You're not going to engage them. They're going to shut down. They're going to lock down. They're going to be mad. You have to start with the why. One of the things that I would love to see every agency do more of, and that no agency does enough of, is connect to the meaningful moments. There are so many things in EMS that can chip away at your soul and cause PTSD and make it very hard for you to go on throughout your day. But what we don't do is, I'm a little distracted by my own videos right now. We're just like flipping through them really fastly. What we don't do is connect them to those meaningful moments. I can tell you firsthand that connecting to that cardiac arrest save, connecting to that child, connecting to that adult is so invaluable. It will wipe away years worth of damage. And it connects you back to the why. Why am I here? Why? I'm not here to hear from my QI supervisor that I got 98% signatures or anything else. I'm here to make a difference and make a change in someone's life. So connecting to that why, we need to spend a lot more time and a lot more effort connecting employees to that why.
Well, at this point, I've asked you all of my questions. So you can just direct me on where you would like me to go slide-wise and what you want to cover next. We've got about 24 minutes left.
Honestly, I realize that there usually isn't that much time at the end for questions. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's an important aspect. If anybody has any questions right now, I'd like to start addressing them. And then, so this is such a huge topic. This is eating an elephant, starting with a toenail. And there's no way that we can do it justice in an hour. And Andrea, I know that you've mentioned this. What I've collected over the years, and there's one resource that I really am sad that I didn't share on my slide. I don't know how I missed the Center for Patient Safety. If you email me, I will be happy to send you some more links. When I talk about not having the funding to learn what you need to learn, so you've got promoted, you've been in this for so long and you went through the hoops and you're respected and you take good care of people. So you're promoted to this quality improvement position. It does not mean, no matter how big or small your agency is, that they can afford to spend the money training you to teach you what you need to know to do your job. So luckily, the World Wide Web it has so many free resources. There is nothing that you can't find out and find out for free on the internet. It just is very time consuming and cumbersome. And that is why I tried to share a lot of hyperlinks. I hope that you go through it on your own time. If you reach out to me, I will help you in any way that I can on my own personal time, Carl, if you're listening. With anything that you need to do to be successful, you just have to not take no for an answer for learning and start digging in and finding your own answers and making your own way. Are there any questions? I'm so disappointed that you can't see my smiling face. I have makeup on and nice clothes, I swear.
Are there any tactics or strategies that you want to share with the group? Anything you want to add? Because we do have, we got 21 minutes for questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel free to chime in as well. Use the chat box, raise your hand, unmute yourself. We'll open up the floor.
I see a lot in the chat about challenges with Zoom requiring the passwords and problems. People are seeing the slides.
I didn't see it. I didn't see that. I did see one. Yeah. The passcode's in the email. It's right underneath the Zoom connection information. I did see one person that didn't see it. Yeah.
So one of the biggest keys that any employee or any quality supervisor or any supervisor needs to see is recognizing your own it says finished story, lights and sirens. Culture shift away from punitive to growing agency is tough. Absolutely. I think that is the hardest thing. Quality assurance and quality improvement should be 100% non-punitive. Anything that you read in Just Culture or Center for Patient Safety, anything that you read anywhere will tell you that having a punitive culture will do nothing other than drive the problems underground and make people hide them and be fearful and potentially hurt people. The last thing that anybody wants is to not be a patient advocate and not recognize when we're doing something that could hurt someone. Education. That is my soapbox. If you're interested in promoting quality improvement and quality assurance in your agency, I urge you to take instructor coordinator class. And why do I need an instructor coordinator class? Andrea, you're finishing yours, even though you've been an instructor for a long time. You can agree that learning things like Maslow's hierarchy helps you understand why people prioritize things differently. If you are up all night and you become focused on your next meal, your next bathroom break, how long that you can survive this night or whatever, you're never going to get to self-actualization. So learning about teaching is one of the very most important things that any quality improvement and quality assurance, nothing else matters. If you read that coaching, okay, so you completely understand, let's say you completely understand that not being punitive, and you realize that handing somebody a written, because that's what your policy says, never change anybody's behavior for the long term. It's just not possible. There's a lot of studies, there's a lot of literature that supports this. You realize that. That does not get you to the end, the how, the why. And how do you do it for free when your agency doesn't have money? One of the pages that I shared was a ton of free resources. If somebody blows off a CVA call or sepsis is, I don't know, near and dear to my heart, because I don't think people realize how dangerous it is. And I was guilty of it. You know, you go to a nursing home and you find a patient's febrile and everybody else is blowing it off, and you take them to the hallway and you don't address and you don't ALS. If you don't ALS them and you don't start fluid resuscitation, you're just as guilty as the rest. But if I hand you a piece of paper that says you got a written for not recognizing sepsis and not following a sepsis protocol, is that going to make you want to take better care of sepsis patients? Absolutely not. Well, not me. Back in the day, there was a time where you would be humiliated if you got a write-up. That's not the case. I don't think that's the case, but for the majority. But if I spend 2 hours understanding how serious and how real sepsis is and how it's a bigger problem than cancer or whatever, I'm going to buy into that. That's the why. I'm not going to ignore that again. And the fact that I realized that it was pointed out to me in a empathetic, understanding manner where I was not punished and I was supported in learning better. So if you know better, you will do better. There's no truer statement in EMS than you don't know what you don't know. And we're all guilty of it. I am the guiltiest of all. I was a hypocrite because there were a lot of days where I just coasted and I did not try to sharpen my skills. I did not sharpen the saw. I did not study and keep up on pediatric medication doses. I felt like I was contributing enough and EMS was taking enough from me. And I think I probably spent several years doing that. Luckily, not the majority of my 20-some years. But there lies the rub. If you don't realize that you're in that lull, you're in that complacency lull, and you're slapped with a written, you're liable to be defensive, throw your armor on, and just dig your heels in because you're an alpha type, and we bred you to be that way. One of the slides that are out there is about burnout, compassion fatigue. What does that mean? It's not a pass. It's not a hall pass. Burnout and compassion fatigue is not a hall pass. But understand at your own that your EMS itself has some ownership to that. Our culture of sink or swim, suck it up, buttercup, that contributes to that culture. The punitive culture of you did this, you forgot your drug box, you did this, you did that, here's your written, get out there. I don't care that you have 4 reports down and you haven't eaten, get out there and get it done. That contributes to that. I would suspect agencies' education budgets are not as robust as they need to be. I agree 100%. So EMS is new. We know this. I can say that I've been in it for 25 plus years, but that doesn't mean that we knew what we were doing 25 years ago. We're still learning now, and the budgets weren't there. That is something that is ever changing, but don't let that be your excuse. I could say that I know two agencies. I worked for a hospital system where I worked in respiratory therapy, critical care, cardiac care unit, intensive care unit. I got a different perspective. I learned a lot there. And I've only worked for two agencies. And I realized I've only worked for two agencies. And that is why I spend so much time seeing what everybody else is doing in the country. You have to be able to look outside the box that you're given and what your agency has, and putting yourself in that box that you don't have the money, you can't go to that. I want to give really big props and kudos to the Michigan Center for Rural Health right now in Andrea for the Leadership Academy that I was able to attend. Aaron Reinhardt is amazing. Safety Tech Solutions, amazing. I learned so much, and it was very inspiring to me to want to continue my education, to do better and contribute more, be a lifelong learner. That was an expensive class that my agency could not afford, and I work for a big agency. Most of you can't say that you work for a big agency, but it doesn't matter how big or how little your agency is. The budget isn't there. It certainly isn't there with Rona life, COVID life.
Hey, Betsy,
Yeah.
we have a question that came in that you may not have seen. It's, how do you advise a team that's constantly fighting and having conflict?
Advise a team that's constantly having conflict. Well, that's something that we don't do enough of. We don't teach our people how to teach. We don't teach our people conflict resolution. Conflict resolution, there are so many free resources out there. There are several of them that I believe I shared in links. But that's not something that's taught in a paramedic class. And getting over your uncomfortableness, the vulnerability of saying something to somebody that is awkward, and you're like, oh God, I have to tell somebody that they smell. She wants me to tell them that they smell. Or that's just one example. It's a horrible feeling. But starting the dialogue, there are at least, I think, 4 or 5 different free resources for conflict resolution. And hearing each other out is like the biggest thing. But for some reason, we like to tuck our arms in, cross our arms across our chest, and just numb out, move away, and ignore it, and not deal with it. I think that every supervisor out there can say, if they're listening, that people will come to them and say, I can't get along with them. We're fighting nonstop, or I got to find a new part. You've got to put me on a new truck because I can't deal with them. Well, what have you done to resolve this problem yourself? The answer is almost always going to be nothing. Nothing. Can't you fix it for me?
Yeah, there's usually a lack of communication, or someone's too afraid to say what's on their mind, and they never had the understanding or the conversation.
And it's not been acceptable. It's not been okay. And one of the things that would probably just frustrate people to no end, but be very beneficial, is to put them both in the same room and be a mediator and hear each other out and understand. So perspectives and understanding, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. We have no idea what people are going through. And bias is a big thing. We're all very guilty. I can't even, it's such a big topic. It deserves its own 3-hour special. So we're biased against overdoses. We're biased against psych patients. We're biased against racial groups. If you say you're not, well, then you're not really in touch with the way you've been behaving or the way EMS has been in the past. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I interrupted you, actually. We have another question though. We're starting to have some questions flow in. So are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I might chime in on this one too, because I really like this question. So,
Mhm.
so I find that you can educate and explain why only so many times till eventually some sort of disciplinary action has to be taken. For some medics, not all, most will improve when questioned or know that they are being reviewed consistently. So this for me is accountability. And yes, eventually you have to hold someone accountable. So that's a really great point. So Betsy, what's your take on that?
Honestly, this person needs help. They need help. They need EAP. They need some resources. Their life is not good. If they're this miserable at work, they're this miserable at home. And we owe everyone more than that. We owe helping them heal and helping them get through it. I want everybody that I work with to not be miserable at work or at home. That does not mean that you can continue to go on in EMS. It might be time to explore, to say, hey, I've given so much, I can't give anymore. I can't even recognize my own wounds. I don't even know that I have PTSD. One of the most heartwarming things that I'm not gonna name them right now, and obviously not, but there's some employees that gave me positive feedback about me talking tonight, who don't work for us anymore, who gave so much that it damaged them. And the bottom line is recognizing that EMS has ownership and somebody being burnt out, and obviously you still need to have accountability. If you can't get past that, well, then it's time to help you see that this is not your light anymore. And we will help you go find your light. Invite you back to the workforce. But the first step is EAP and is counseling and dropping that stigma. And I will be more than happy to share my own story of EAP and recognizing that EMS did some damage, and working through it to come out on the other side and still have more to contribute to the profession. It's going to be very, very difficult for EMS to be a profession if we keep letting our people get burnout and drop out when they're really finally ready to contribute at a higher level, at that higher Maslow's hierarchy, more that higher self-actualization.
So wouldn't you say, so you keep bringing up Maslow's, right? So wouldn't you say that, well, first of all, we don't scrape even the first level of Maslow. So we don't scrape the sleep, we don't scrape the food, we can't even get past the first level, right? So we've got a workforce that's not even achieving that often. And now we have staffing crisis everywhere. So each ambulance is doing more and more calls. If you're in the Upper Peninsula, you're doing 6-hour transfers or 8-hour transfers back to back. If you're in an urban or suburban area, you might be pulling 12 calls in 12 hours. So when you look at burnout and you look at how your employees are behaving, how can you not identify that the anger or the behavior you might be seeing that's, conflict of some sort, it can't be a surprise, right? I mean, we've created a work environment where we're not able to give people breaks or meals. And there's only so much compassion you can have as a servant before that compassion dwindles. I'm much more compassionate at 9 a.m. on my first call in a 24-hour shift than I am on hour 22 in the middle of the night, right? And you have to give yourself that grace. You have to identify it. You have to be self-aware enough to know when you're playing with a vent in the middle of the night on a long distance transport and you haven't slept and you're angry, that is going to happen because you're exhausted and tired. So I just have a bone to pick with that because I feel like we don't, it's almost like leadership and road staff have a disconnect because maybe leadership hasn't been in the ambulance enough lately to understand what that's like. So anyway, that's just kind of my my soapbox that I just got on. But sorry, I'm gonna give the floor back to you, Betsy. I don't know.
I honestly agree. It's between a rock and a hard place.
It's tough, right? Because what are you going to do, right? Oh, take a break, and then we've got
Oh, you don't
customers
get a
waiting.
break. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I
Yeah.
can't give you a break.
Right,
Yeah,
but I mean,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? From a leadership standpoint, it's like, what is the solution? You can't go to a leader and say, I need a break. And what's the response? I'm so sorry, I can't give you a break. We have 10 calls on hold. You know, it's such a difficult dynamic. And my heart goes out to the leaders that have to make those difficult decisions. But at the same time, we created the work environment, right? So how can we
We absolutely did. We absolutely did.
happy, engaged? It's tough.
That only happens when you're meeting all those other needs that are there. And at some point, you cut throat and say, "Hey, I need something for myself."
And don't beat yourself up when you do get upset at hour 23. You know,
no, absolutely. No, and I think every agency should have a fatigue policy, but it doesn't do you any good to have a fatigue policy if you do not teach and make your leadership and your mid-level management honor it and support it and respect it.
And
it is no longer, we are well beyond suck it up buttercup, okay? Because there are a bunch of screwed up paramedics out there who are no longer working the road, who left and went and did something else. So we didn't do them any favors. We didn't do them any service by not acknowledging the damage that EMS did. That stigma has to go away, and you have to be supported. And you know what? This is time for the supervisor to come out and give you a break or shut your car down for a couple of hours. And that's why you have to have a fatigue policy and not be humiliated for it. You know, it is, you're already, paramedics, EMTs, they will already bust their own butts over putting extra work on other people. If you are tapping out, you're trying to survive. Do not go after that person. Do not be sarcastic. Be supportive and understanding, and realize that you would be in the exact same place if you were in their shoes. Never lose sight of that. Never lose sight of that.
Well, Betsy, we're at 7 o'clock. So how about we do this? Everybody that's on, you're welcome to stay, unmic yourself, turn your camera on. We're going to open the floor and stay for however long you need, or however long Betsy can stay. And she can answer any questions you may have. If you're afraid to turn your camera on, that's fine. You can type it in the chat box. But technically it's 7, so you're welcome to log off. Be sure you typed your name into that chat box for additional attendance verification if you haven't already. And thanks you guys for bearing with us. Tonight has been a technical, well, let's just say it was kind of a nightmare, but it worked out. So we really appreciate you guys hanging on.
I am so sorry. I am so frustrated. I did two different.
To apologize. There's no apologies needed. We don't.
Well, let me just tell everybody thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because
thank you, Betsy. Thank you.
We're all out there. The fact that you're online right now and that you signed up for this, you're giving your all to EMS, and we need more of this, not less. So we're all amazing, and we all deserve kudos and support, love and support of each other. So I'm incredibly honored and thankful for this opportunity. Incredibly frustrated because I'm kind of not a perfectionist, but I will beat myself up about the video problem here, because I thought I had that crap worked out.
Maybe you should come back next year and present again on camera. I mean, the offer's open. So it sounds like your audience is wanting more Betsy. I'm watching.
I think it's funny that everybody out there doesn't realize how amazing that it is that I didn't swear tonight.
You did great. Oh, and there's a good comment in the chat box, by the way, and a reminder for those of you still logged on. You do need to complete your quiz and evaluation. It's at the end of the slides that I emailed out. It's in the email that you received for tonight. So either of those two places, and it's also on the webpage, I believe. Yeah. So hit up that link any way you can. You have 2 weeks to do it. There is a small quiz, so be sure you have the slides handy. I did purposely tap into the slides. So make sure you get your quiz eval. That's how you get your continuing education credit for tonight. Great question. I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
I'm very thankful for this opportunity. This pushed my boundaries. This is well beyond my comfort level. I will tell you all that I did not sleep. I am kind of a hot mess. I'm a virgin to this webinar stuff, and I feel a little bit of a failure here, but
not at all. The technical difficulty is not your issue. Don't worry about it.
Oh, good Lord, I think we should be past this. If this was March or April when we were all getting used to connecting online, I feel like I should be better with this. But,
no worries.
But thank you for everybody's graciousness. I really appreciate it. I'll try to not beat myself up too much about it.
No, please don't. And, like I said, does anybody want to open a question before Betsy hops off, or anybody want to ask a question while you have the chance? Don't hesitate to just chime in or type it in the chat box. I want to be sure everybody gets an opportunity.
There's a lot of love and support in those chats, and
there is.
And I'm gonna throw out there that I need some constructive feedback as well. Having those difficult conversations of having constructive feedback and having those. This is something Aaron Reinhardt taught us in Leadership Academy. Making accountability conversations be normal and not uncomfortable, and using it as a tool to make yourself better. So I'm throwing that out there. Give it to me. Don't be gentle. I can take it because I'm a lifelong learner, and I want to do better next time. So don't be afraid to give me some constructive criticism. I will take it and enjoy it and see it as a treasure to improve myself.
Well, we appreciate that. I'm sure the audience is willing to give any kind of feedback that they feel comfortable giving. Can we clone you?
Hey, my boss is out there and he didn't tell me I'm fired. That's wonderful.
They said that you dealt with the technical difficulties very well.
Oh, well, you have no idea the torture I'm going through. But yeah, I thought I had it licked. Andrea, thank you for not hating me for it.
I could never hate you. I will tell you though, I cannot get on Facebook to stop Facebook Live. My computer is it's going nuts. So I can't run Facebook and Zoom at the same time.
You rock it out. You rock it out.
We're both having issues. So, well, it looks like we don't have any burning. Oh, here's one. All right. What can leadership realistically do to reduce the burden on providers in high volume systems? What does the perfect system look like? Oh, that's a question that I would love to answer. You go ahead, Betsy.
No, you first.
I could write like a 10-page paper on this question. So I'm going to give you a short just rendition off the top of my head. High volume systems need to have, and this goes all the way through to medical control authorities, medical directors, and county. They need to have first response vehicles, in my opinion, to ease the burden. We're going to have a shorter and shorter availability of paramedics. We should be putting paramedics in first response vehicles, and then having a few ALS and lots of BLS response. That I think is going to be the future for 911. Also so Betsy brought up a good point, making your supervisor available to hop on a truck to relieve someone fatigued is a great idea, especially if you're running a lot of 24-hour trucks in busy systems. Making efforts for lunches, even though you might have to pull a crew, give them their lunch, schedule it. If you're super huge, it's a super huge undertaking for a medcom system. And I realize that, and it probably has a cost. God, I could go on and on. Great benefit packages that are not high cost, long-term retention, and supervisors like Betsy, hiring people right, promoting them. Structured field training, believe it or not, helps with high volume systems because people are better trained. I could just go on and on, but those are a few tidbits. There is no perfect system though. And so you want to be careful there because, having worked in many systems, rural, suburban, urban, they all have their flaws, but it becomes very clear when organizations are making an effort and when organizations are kind of just keeping their blinders on and going through the motions. Looking at your retention will give you that answer. So if you look at that closely, you're going to lose people. It's EMS. But if you're just burning through people or they're going to your competitor or going to someone that's even an hour away, you probably have some internal issues that you need to look at and correct. I'll stop there. Betsy, do you want to chime in on that one? Anything?
No, I, for the most part, agree with everything that you said. I think that you are absolutely right. The future of high volume systems will be more BLS units and more echo paramedics. And shifting that mindset, we all have to realize that we are going to have to prove our worth. Going forward, it was a given that if you called 911, you were going to get a paramedic and you were going to get an ambulance, even if it took 15 minutes or whatever your response time is. That was a given. Going forward, we have to prove that the ambulance or EMT or paramedic that showed up made a difference in your outcome. That's what the future is. That's
Art model.
Yeah,
That's coming slowly.
Yep, evidence-based, prove it, and that's like one of the bigger things that I try to push, because I think that the things that we do are valuable, but if we don't put it in the right place in your report, Nemesis and the world will never know how important or what a difference paramedics and EMTs make in someone's life. Because if you don't document before and after pain scores, after narcotics, they're just going to take them away because we couldn't prove that we used it and that it was valuable. So it's time to put up or shut up, people. We have to prove that what we've been doing all along is valuable and worthwhile. And it seems like a duh moment for most of us, but that's not the way the future is going. We have to be able to verify it through data that is objective and not just storytelling.
Awesome. Yeah. EMS is a team sport. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Betsy, that's a big part of you as CQI with EHP. That's a big part of your role, isn't it?
Absolutely. Who am I talking to? I'm just curious.
Sorry, Dwight.
Oh, it's Dwight Hughes.
All right. Hi, Dwight. Thank you so much for staying on this long and talking. It is absolutely a big part. It makes no sense to beat somebody down or to show employees where they're at without understanding the why. And we touched that briefly, but the why is you are valuable, you are important, you are needed, you are necessary. Show the world. Help me show the world. If we don't put it in the right box, the world will not see it. The world will not see and know what I know or what everybody else or what your coworker knows or what you know. We have to show them in the right way so it's provable. You have to be able to track it. If it's not in the right place, it's like it didn't even happen. And we don't even have to touch on risk management and lawsuits or anything else like that. Bottom line is, paramedics, EMS, anybody that's dedicated their life to this, they're amazing and you deserve credit. So get the credit that you deserve, that you've earned by making sure your documentation is in the right place at the right time.
Very good. Well, it is 7:12. Are there any other questions? Burning questions? It's your last chance here before we hop off. Like I said, don't forget to do your eval. Because I'm having so many technical difficulties.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
Let me see if I
You hear my
can.
dog? Mojo. That's Mojo. Show the if you want kindness in the world. Yeah. I want
All
show
right.
Mojo. He is so handsome.
Well, I'm gonna hop off so I can turn off Facebook Live.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for lending
hang
me
on,
your ear
Betsy.
tonight.
Rachel, I just saw your message. I don't think I did see your question.
Thanks, Andrea, and thanks, Betsy. It's always good to hear from both of you.
You're very welcome. Take care.
Oh.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Okay, one last quick question coming from Rachel. She had a question about teams that badmouth patients. Can you be a little bit more specific? Like, do you mean just in front of the patient or after the call, or what's happening there? I don't know. Let's see. After the call. Oh, so you're really referencing professionalism and maturity there. So, okay. So teams that badmouth patients or complain about patients after the call. What's your take on that, Betsy?
I have no doubt it's the same take that you have on it. You're not recognizing your own intrinsic bias. We aren't putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes. It's easy to do because you're frustrated that this is your 15th call today or your 12th call today, and they're making their own problems. And that's I think that's like a big thing. They caused this or they did this to themselves. You have no idea what kind of horrific life that person could have went through. And we are no person to judge that the way that they are coping, they're doing the best that they can to get by with what they have. We're all doing the best that we can every day, even when their best that they can means that they're sticking a needle in their arm and injecting heroin. You have no idea what somebody else has been through. There have been the atrocities that some people have been through. We're not all built alike. We don't all have the same resiliency. To think that our resiliency is better than somebody else's. I think that there was a time where it was, I don't want to say a badge of honor, but that it was a way to fit in and be cool is to talk bad about somebody else. That's how you build relationships. Gossip about somebody else. You know what? That's just small. And that is one way to build relationships, but a way to have the relationship that you could be proud of, that you want to keep for the rest of your life, is to be like, hey, yeah, they did, that was a horrible situation. I can't imagine what that person went through in their life to be in that place. It must be horrible. And I'm just thankful that I'm not in there. And I'm thankful that of the shit life that they're in right now, I was able to make a difference in the small way today. And I swore it finally happened.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I am just finally it's gonna let me stop streaming.
I was a student riding with this team. Should I have reported them? They were doing it almost every call. Oh, Rachel, I would say not reporting it. That's not your first step. Your first step is, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about this? Does that seem professional? And that's that really awkward that awkward point, especially when you're doing a third ride. Do you stick your neck out and say, hey, this seems off? Is this what we're supposed to do? Is this respecting others and being empathetic and understanding somebody else's boundaries? No, it's not. And I could say that it's kind of a hallmark of immaturity, but it's also just an old culture, old previous culture that hasn't evolved yet. But calling it out and naming it, a problem named is a problem solved. And that is from fierce leadership, fierce conversation. A problem named is a problem solved. Having the voice to say something is enormous. It doesn't matter if you're telling yourself, I'm just a student, or I'm just an EMT, whatever you're telling yourself, calling it out is almost always enough to make somebody rethink their position and understand that what they're doing is detrimental. What good is that? Who does that serve?